So I'm Indra, and I'm a research scientist at IIM Research Tokyo. And in today's talk, I'll be going around AI for accelerated material discovery and some of the work that we've been doing at IIM Research. So I thought I'd begin with this slide, which I believe is the three elements for any innovation. So need, challenges, and opportunities. So need drives you to search for or identify challenges, and challenges would inspire you to look out for opportunities, and opportunities would result in providing solutions for the need. So this talk, we'd go through material discovery from this perspective. So firstly, the need. So materials are the backbone of the society. We have always been sought out for new materials, and this is because we have a wide variety of applications, and we live in a Silicon age where we're surrounded by an infinite number of materials starting from plastics, composites, polymers, etc. So in 2008, the National Academy of Engineering had identified 14 branch challenges. So these are things like providing clean water, or finding out better medicines, or something to do with energy. So basically, these are the things that we need to solve for continued life on this planet. And more than half of these challenges tend to require new materials or the discovery of new materials. So yes, new materials have high impact, but the problem is it is very difficult. So when I say difficult, it is as good as finding a needle in a haystack. So given a particular requirement for an application, you have an enormous number of combinations. So to give you an idea, for a particular application, say you have these are the required properties, you might end up with 10 to the power 60 different possible candidates from which you have to choose from. Now, how do we guide our experiments towards this desired, identifying this desired materials? So traditionally, it was by trial and error, and sometimes by accident. So some of the famous examples of discovery of materials by accident is like discovery of artificial sweeteners. So there was a scientist who accidentally ended up eating without washing his hands, and he had spilled some chemicals. So that's how it led to the discovery of artificial sweeteners. So we have such examples, but we cannot rely on such accidents. We are not so lucky enough all the time. So what are the conventional methods, so trial and error? Now, 10 to the power 60 combinations, imagine if we were to do it by trial and error. It is impossible, and it's going to take an indefinite amount of time. So that's when you use a little bit of your domain knowledge or your experience that you've had. So from a particular space, you kind of find it yourself and then identify the most appropriate material. But that is also going to take a good amount of time, and you might not lead to discovering something very novel or a very complex or better material. So now that we have the power to compute, we do use simulations. Now, simulations are much faster and cheaper compared to physical experiments. And though we can opt for such simulated technology, even with the largest supercomputers that we have today, it is going to take weeks to identify just a single property of a single compound. So, though we are there, it's going to take a long time. So, what is our goal, or what is our target here? Our target is to find a suitable or effective materials in the least amount of time possible. So how do we go about this? We can choose AI and data-driven models. So in this work, I'll just brief you about the work that IIM Research that we're doing in the domain of accelerating discovery for foundation models. So the first of this one is curating data set. Now we have a large amount of data sets through the papers that are being published or through the papers that are being filed every year. Now, these material information from these papers are not accessible. It's not like a simple Google search that people do. So we have a project called Research, where we curate this material here from papers and papers that are being published. The second one is, now you have the data, you would want to run simulations on it. So we have a discovery toolkit, it's called ST, which is simulation toolkit for scientific discovery. And this is basically for running simulations and finding out the properties of different materials that you read in the papers. Now, all the materials, all properties are not available. So some of them need to be tested out and need to be identified. And we don't want to stick with just existing materials. We want to discover new materials. So that's where the generative toolkit comes in. So we have a generative toolkit for scientific discovery. And lastly, we have synthesis. Now, automatic synthesis and lab automations are something that is key. And we have our excellent project that runs on this. Now, all of this is mostly data-driven. Where does AI come into play? So now we have a lot of foundation models like ChatGPT kind of. So we are currently developing foundation models for materials and chemistry. And I will be going through some of the works that we are currently doing. So this is one of our latest works. So before going on to that, we at IIM Research are about 3,000 plus researchers spread across the globe. We have 18 sites. And we have enough collaboration, and among that, this is the group of members that are particularly focusing on foundation models for materials and chemistry, me included. So the first one is, though AI is gaining focus in materials, all the efforts that are put towards this is very limited and it's very fragmented. By fragmented, I mean, now these materials are probably represented by one form. For example, this is a string-based representation of a molecule. Similarly, you have other representations like graph molecules or orbitals or even domain-specific content. But all of these are individually developed. So they are very domain-specific or they are very limited in their operations or the functions that it can provide. So unlike language models which are very popular these days, materials domain, we have very small models. So these parameters are in the order of 100 million versus any of these language models which are like in billions of parameters. And that also goes with the data set that is currently available. So data set wise, these are all data sets that are publicly released. So not all data sets are publicly available, and those that are available are very limited in number. So we have hardly in the range of 1 million publicly available data sets. And as I mentioned, now each of these modalities or domains, the models are trained independently, so we don't have any cross-domain knowledge being shared. And obviously, because of these reasons, we don't have good accuracies in the prediction models, or there is no synergy between the models. So what can we do to overcome this issue? So we at IIM are currently developing foundation models with this kind of an architecture where we train multiple models and use them onto a common space, and then we use it for different downstream tasks. So we are currently aiming at developing a 10 billion parameter model, and I will go into the details of the kind of models that we have. So before going into that, I will give you an overview of what multimodal or modality in the material domain means. So, for example, this being a molecule, it can be represented as a string. So, a simple example is water, H2O. H2O is again a string representation. So, this is Myers representation. Similarly, we have different aspects of the material. Material can have spectrum data which could convey some information about the material. It could have some energy diagrams or energy levels which can contribute to the properties of the material. So these are all individual aspects or views of a particular molecule which we call as a modality. Now, information from all these modalities when fused to a common space will give you an overall idea of what the molecule is about. So that would give you the essential fundamental properties of the model, and it would help you understand a better representation of the molecules. And from that, we would use it for any of these downstream tasks like property prediction or any of the application areas. So the approach of this multimodal representation is basically to have this cross-modality inferencing. So if you have a particular material data, you might not have the spectral information of it, or you might not have the energy simulation results of it. So with this common foundation model, we can have across the modality inferencing. So given a smile screen, you can predict the properties, or given the properties, you can find out what molecule has that property, or from a property to another spectrum, or such. So the overall model architecture is, like I mentioned, we have a couple of modalities. And these are some of the modalities that we are currently developing. Fuse them onto a common data space. So we're basically using a couple of technologies like mixture of experts or dynamic fusion strategies that can fuse all these information of each individual modality onto a common space. And from this common space, we can either use it for downstream task prediction or for cross-modality inferencing, which I just explained in the previous slide. So starting with the individual modalities, I'll just run through quickly very few examples of this. So the first one is SMILES modality. So SMILES is again a string-based representation. So we are currently developing a couple of models of various sizes, base, large, Excel, and such. And these are basically encoder-decoder models where they're trained with the SMILES representation of the molecules, and from the latent space, they are using it to predict properties. So now these evaluations are performed on molecule-net data sets. So these are basically biochemical data sets. For example, HIV is given a particular drug element. Is it effective to the HIV or not? And others are like ClinTox, where it is basically to determine the toxicity of the clinical toxicity of the compound. So similarly, we have another representation which is called selfies. And this again, we have a couple of models being developed, and this is also an encoder-decoder model, but then trained on a different modality. The third one is about molecular graph. So to understand the structure of the molecule, to understand the bond structures and the relation between the elements that form the compound, we use a graph neural network to train on the molecules. And again, we use the latent representation to predict a couple of properties. So now these are real-world examples on a polymer data set, and to predict the photoresist properties and the lambda of the spectrum. And further on, we have a couple of modalities like finding the substructures and the spectrum. I'm not going into the details of these because I understand that we are of different backgrounds, but I just want to give you an idea that each materials has different modalities, and initially the model architecture that we are currently following is for each modality train their independent models and then fuse them. So again, text description is basically, say, a Wikipedia article on ethanol, so something of that sort. So now that we have individual models for each of these modalities, we have to fuse them onto a common latent space to get an overview of a particular material. And now, again, we might not have all the modalities for a particular material, so we are developing different strategies like mixture of experts or dynamic fusion that can be used in downstream tasks. So I just want to give you a quick comparison of
how the modality, single modality models versus this fused multimodal models perform. So if you see the first three over here are three individual modalities, and you can see their performance on different property prediction tasks. Now compared to them, the multimodal models, basically a combination of 2 or 3 modalities, have higher ROCs. And this is mainly because with this fusion, the model gets an understanding from a different perspective. You can see it like a multi-view of this same given molecule. So that's how the performances are increasing. So now we can use this for more modalities, and that's what we are doing. And the second application is about cross-modality inferencing. So for example, say I have to find the spectral properties of a particular material. Now, identifying the spectral, obviously you can do simulations or you can do experiments, but then it's going to take a very long time. But say if we have a foundation model that can do this cross-referencing. So given whatever information, I have the molecule smile string information. From there, I can predict the spectrum properties. Or given spectrums and selfies, I can predict a particular property. So this is cross-modality inferencing. And we are currently working on these. Another real-world example is in the design of batteries. So I earlier mentioned about the 14 grand challenges. So one of them is to have economical energy. So this is an example where we design battery electrolytes based on the models. So the bar chart that you see on the extreme right, these are compared to other types of techniques, machine learning techniques that you can probably use for such a task versus the foundation model that we have developed. And since we have a better RMSE score, we can say that this has a higher accuracy in meeting the criteria. And of course, this one is to have a conversational UI kind of an interface. So we have a ChatGPT, so I'm pretty sure everyone has used ChatGPT, and you are very comfortable by the virtual assistant kind of an interface. So imagine having that in the materials domain or in the chemistry domain. I just have to just type in, okay, I need a compound or a material that has these properties, and then you get the output. So this is something that we're developing, and it's in the initial phases, but then with very promising results, and it's called ChemChat. So finally, I just want to give you an overview of the AI Alliance. So IBM, a few other companies, and universities, academic institutions, we have formed a consortium called the AI Alliance. It has multiple working groups. So the whole idea of AI Alliance is for open-sourced AI models. And it's not just AI models, it's even about the ethics, it's about the governance, and it has multiple focus areas. So if you're interested, please go through the website. So currently we have about so many, I don't know the exact count, but we have these many participating institutes, companies, academic institutions, universities who are participating in the AI Alliance event. And we have a particular working group as part of the AI Alliance called the Working Group for Materials and Chemistry. So we held a technical workshop in the month of May in Tokyo, where we had group readout sessions and group discussions. And we also had a social gathering at ICML last month. And we currently have about 20 plus material companies who are interacting with us, who are engaged in this open source activity. We have bi-weekly meetings. And We have recently open sourced one of the models as part of this AI Alliance. So if you are interested in being a part of the AI Alliance, not just this working group, we have multiple focus areas, please reach out. Yeah, so that's my talk. I'm open to questions.